Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Velvet Lounge Life. Yes, I saw the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood today, and I have to tell you right up front, I am spoiling a lot of things. So if you don't want a spoiler, don't listen to this particular review. Just let the video play on mute. I'm good with that. Just give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below as to whether or not you are going to see this movie or not, yes or no. And a little smiley face is fine if you want to leave that there as well. Frown if you want to. But this movie, I'm just going to tell you right up front that I am giving it 4 stars. Sorry about that. 4 stars out of 5. The only reason I am not giving it 5 stars is because I do think that some of the black and white scenes that were used, I just felt like there were a few too many, and sometimes things in the movie went on a little bit too long. Certain things I didn't mind if they went on long, but then some of the others, you're just like, okay, let's just move on. And wow, how long is that black and white scene going to last? Now, the black and white scenes are an integral part of the movie, and they're peppered in pretty much where they should be, but there definitely are probably like 3 or 4 of them too many. I think that some of them could have been done in color and it would have been just as effective, or I don't know, something different could have been done. But hey, I don't make the movies, I just watch them. This movie was chocked full of stars, and there are a couple that I really want to talk about. First of all, some of the stars, of course, as you can see, are Brad Pitt. And Brad Pitt, as far as I'm concerned, he was the lead in this movie. He really was. I know much respect is given to Leonardo, and that's why they're sort of co-leading. But I'm telling you, when you see this movie, especially after maybe the first, I'm going to say 20 minutes, it suddenly turns into Brad Pitt land. And I wasn't hating it. It was very good. And he really knows how to strap on some denim from head to ankle. Okay, from neck to ankle. Technically, I was watching him more so from neck to ankle. So you know how they tell men, your eyes should be up here? My eyes were all in the region of neck to ankle. I'm honest about it, and there it goes. He also has a scene where he is in a skin tight diving outfit or scuba diving outfit. It's bright orange, but hey, it was the 70s or at that point when they were filming this, and they do this purposeful butt shot that just literally had so many people in the movie theater giggling their butts off themselves. So, some treats for the ladies out there, which is a really nice change. Also, he has a scene where, of course, he's strapping in some really nice blue denim jeans that are partially washed. And then, for honestly no apparent reason, because was it really necessary? Yes, for our eyes, it was necessary. He takes his shirt off, and once again, I wasn't hating it. It was good. Thank you, Quentin. Thank you. I owe you a bottle of champagne for that. So, there are definitely some eye candy moments, as women sometimes say, and Brad Pitt becomes all of your candy. Like, no one else is really candy in this movie. I mean, like, there's some things for the men in there, of course. But as far as for the women, there's plenty of Brad to go around, which is really nice. But you have Brad, you have Leonardo, but you also have Dakota Fanning, who does an amazingly awesome job as one of the crazy ass Manson women. Whoa. I was like, I didn't know Dakota had all of that in her, but she definitely brought some fire. And she actually has red hair in the movie. So yeah, the fire reference. Al Pacino, he was good. He's your grandpa now. He's like this cute little old dude. And he does his Al Pacino thing because he has that voice. And it was nice seeing him in this movie. Kurt Russell, oh my God. I was like, I honestly didn't even know he was in the movie. And I was like, oh my God, that's Kurt Russell. And he was so good. It was so good to see him again out there. I don't know if he's like been active out in the world as far as acting. I know he obviously has earned the right to be very picky and to be retired if he feels like it. But like I said, selfish person here, I was really happy to see him actually in this movie doing his thing. He was really, really, really awesome. Now, an actor that I'm not familiar with, and I'm going to give him probably a 5-star rating, is Michael Moh. That's M-O-H. Oh my God. He does the best Bruce Lee that I've ever seen. I'm telling you, you will think you are like Bruce Lee has been reincarnated and that there really is an afterlife because he looks like him. Bruce Lee used to have this really strong like jawline. This guy actually has that chiseled jawline. The movements, and there is some martial arts in this movie. His mannerisms, his voice, and I swear that maybe I could be wrong. I don't know. But I do feel as if it was like the look was just so, I'm telling you, I thought I was seeing like a reincarnated Bruce. Like he was just so Bruce in this movie. And I don't know if something was done as far as the creation to splice anything in where the close-ups actually were Bruce Lee. And I don't know if that happened or not. I don't know. But the parts that Bruce Lee is playing at this point in history, he is an actor on The Green Hornet. If anyone ever watched that, he played the Green Hornet's sidekick. And in the movie, that's what he's doing. They're taking a break in between scenes. He also he's hired to teach like these people how to do martial arts moves. And he does that, I guess, in the movie industry, which I think he actually did in real life. So there are some references to actual events, but this movie is not a factual movie. So what they've done is Quentin has taken let's say the Manson murders, for example. That is something that actually, unfortunately and sadly, happened to Sharon Tate, Roman Polanski, the lady who is the heiress to the Folgers coffee fortune, and others. They were also murdered that night. And what Quentin did is he took that story and gave us the happy ending that we wish really happened. What happens is, like I said, and I'll go back to Bruce Lee, is Bruce Lee trains, these actors. He's doing things in between. He's talking, he's bantering. He's being Bruce Lee, the actor that everyone fell in love with back in his day, before his life was horribly taken away by a murder. Now, something that I love that this movie does, it really tells the story the way Quentin wants us to fantasize about it, if you think, because things actually happen in real life that were tragic. So Bruce Lee doesn't get murdered on a movie set. He actually is living in this movie. He's living a life. In this movie, Sharon Tate and her unborn baby are not murdered. Roman Polanski, all those people that were murdered by the Manson cultist, none of them die. It's actually a rewritten ending to history. And so what happens is, you have Leonardo, who is this down and out old Western actor of the 50s. You have Brad Pitt, who is a stunt man. He's his ride or die. He will do the lawn. He will drive the car. He will, watch the house, be a bodyguard. He's doing all of these different things for Leonardo. And that's his job. That's what he does for work. So what happens is eventually Leonardo's career kind of like ends. It just wanes. That happens. And he is going to celebrate with Brad Pitt's character before Brad Pitt's character goes back to wherever he lives. And so they decide, and I'm skipping like some parts of the movie because, to me these are the most important spoilers. There's this particular night. If you think about it, it's like the final night, we're breaking up the team. You're going your way. I'm going to go my way. And maybe we'll meet again one day, that type of thing. And so what happens is Brad Pitt's character happens to be at Leonardo's house. They're partying a little bit. Leonardo goes into a back room or the kitchen, actually. He decides to make some margaritas. While he's making margaritas, getting his groove on to some funky music, there's all this racket and noise outside from a crappy ass car. And so he decides to go investigate, and it's also messing up his groove. So he yells and he screams at what actually ends up being Charles Manson's killers that have been sent, that he's actually sent to, he's sending them to Sharon Tate's house and Roman Polanski's house to commit all these murders. But what happens is someone in the vehicle recognizes Leonardo's character as an actor from the 1950s who was in a lot of violent movies. And this girl's like, yeah, he was violent and all these murders occurred. Why don't we use that as our reason for like committing the murders tonight? And instead of going to the Tate Polanski house, let's go to his house. So what Quentin Tarantino did is change the story. So these people end up going to Brad Pitt's house. I'm sorry, it's actually Leonardo's house. Brad Pitt actually in the beginning, what happens is Leonardo comes out. He's having a fit because of all that noise, and he ends up telling those folks off. They're like, oh my God, yeah, we'll back up, we'll back off, we're sorry, we were lost, just excuses, whatever. And of course they park around the corner and they're coming back. And like I said, the decision is now made not to go to the Polanski Tate house, but to go to Leonardo's house and to kill him and whoever else he has in the house. So when they get there and the door bursts open, in the middle of the floor, just getting his groove on, is Brad Pitt's character. And he is high on acid. And so it was really funny because he like picks up this hitchhiker who had been, sort of like connecting with him in a way, just in passing. And eventually one day he picks her up and takes her back to the ranch, which happens to be where the Manson killers are. And he does not know that. There are some conflicts that happen there. And he ends up beating up a guy. And, eventually, for whatever reason, the circle becomes complete when on that night, some of those Manson killers end up at Leonardo's door. And when they break the door open, there is Brad Pitt's character. And he decides, while he's high on PCP or whatever type of acid he's dropping, he's just like, I'm going to feed my dog and just, get on with my life. And he's like, are you people real? And they're like, yeah, we're real. And one guy claims he's the devil. And he has a gun, and he's going to shoot Brad Pitt's character. And then Leonardo's wife comes from out of the back of the house. She was sleeping or whatever, and she starts screaming because one of the killers have pulled her forward. And that's when Brad Pitt kind of comes out of his high and realizes that, oh my God, this is really happening. And of course, he reigns helter-skelter on the bad guys, and all of them are taken out by Brad Pitt initially. One of them is taken out, actually, one of them is taken out by Brad Pitt's dog. There's some permanent injuries, and I'm going to say there's 2 or 3 of them that are killed. And then I don't know where Leonardo was when all of this racket was going on, but near the end, he comes out and there's one killer that's still alive, and he basically uses a fire thrower to turn her into charcoal. She totally dies. One of the other heroes of this movie, though, was a pit bull, a brown pit bull, and he actually helps them take out some of the bad guys. Those are some of my favorite fight moments in the movie. And you have to forgive me, it is very late here. It's I'm going to say after midnight, and I've been up since, I'm going to say 4:30 this morning, so yes, this may not be the most verbal flowing movie review, but I wanted to get it out there because the movie opened here in the United States today. And I just wanted to tell you guys that I definitely recommend that you see this movie. Especially if you're age 60 and older, this movie is a time capsule. That is the best way to describe it. It is a beautiful, violent, vile, did I say beautiful? Time capsule. If you are someone who watched television or movies in the 60s and the 70s and a little bit in the 50s, then this movie is going to take you back in time to when you were young. And you're going to love every moment of it. You're going to see everything from references to pieces and parts and bits of those movies, television shows, music, commercials, even the product placement throughout this movie is stellar. It is awesome. You're going to see a style of restaurant that you haven't seen since the very, very, very early 80s when they were all closed. The clothing that you're going to see is spectacular. People who are mid-century modernist and love that design are going to salivate while they're watching this movie, because I'm telling you, I was like, wow, look at that ring. Look at that lamp. There were just so many things to look at in this movie. So that's another recommendation I have, is that this is a movie that hopefully you'll see at the big screen at the movie theater, in other words, and I do mean the movie theater, and then hopefully you'll watch it at home on your big personal screen, or bigger or smaller, or whatever your screen size is, because you'll just, especially if you enjoy more than just, the actual acting, but you're someone who loves set design, like I said, if you love the mid-century modern movement, if you're a fashion designer, you're going to love it. There's a lot of really cool retro t-shirts in this movie that Brad Pitt's character wears, and I was coveting myself. And some of the television shows that are referenced are shows such in movies, because some of these are movies. You have Nebraska Mannix is referenced a lot. I was surprised by how much. Rosemary's Baby. Ooh, I love that movie. The Great Escape. There was a television show back in the day that was named The FBI. And you also have this movie which will show you how freaky your parents were back in the day. It's named Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. I've seen that movie, really good movie for back in the day. Definitely one that you'll want to watch. And Easy Rider for all of those, I like, I'm not a motorcyclist myself, but I wear motorcycle boots almost every day. I think I have like 7 or 8 pairs. I like studs. I like chains. And so this movie, like when I saw Easy Rider, I was just like, oh my God, that's from the movie Easy Rider. I was just like in my moment, in my element. The music, there's a lot of unfamiliar music, but it's of the eras that this movie references. But some of the things, some of the music that will be familiar to you, is the song Hush by Deep Purple. I love that song. Ramblin' Gamblin' Man by Bob Seger. Who doesn't know who Bob Seger is? I'll wait. Mrs. Robinson by Simon and Garfunkel. Remember them? You Keep Me Hanging On by Vanilla Fudge. And there are there's a lot of other songs, whether it's a snippet of a song or a little bit more than a snippet. But a lot, like I said, there's a lot of it that I definitely was not familiar with. But if you're of the era, I'm sure that you will be completely familiar with that music. Like I said, the product placement, you had everything from Coty Cosmetics to, lots and lots of smoking was going on because in the, the 50s, even before the 50s, but the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, smoking was just a thing. It was very normal. People did it while their babies were in their presence, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll see a lot of that. Alcohol, of course, was a huge thing. Everyone needed to have a cocktail back then. Whiskey sours are referenced as well as other alcoholic beverages. And to all of those that are Hennessy fans, the Henny was actually mentioned by name. I was like, wow, look at that. I wonder how much Hennessy paid to get that put in there. There's a lot of other ads. Also, if you love vintage cars, you will love this movie just for the cars. And I am not, someone who's necessarily a car lover. I like driving cars fast, but I don't like, know much about cars at all. But looking at some of the cars in this movie, it definitely took me back to the 70s and some of them when they were left over and made their way into the early 80s. But I was like, wow, look at that's when a car was really a car back then. So, if you're a gearhead, look at the cars if you don't want to look at anything else. I don't know if I mentioned this, but Brad Pitt knows how to strap on some denim from neck to ankle. Yep, I didn't keep my eyes up. I was a neck to ankle girl throughout this movie whenever Brad was in a scene. Pretty much. Not all the time, but pretty much. And I'm not apologizing for it. As far as for the ladies, there's lots of, eye candy out there for you. Obviously, they always do it for the men. But this time I felt as if someone actually paid attention to our desires as well. So, Quentin Tarantino loves spaghetti westerns. He did not disappoint when it came to the references there. And like I said, the look of the movie, the feel of the movie. We watched it on IMAX. I don't think that was really necessary. I think you could just watch it in a regular movie theater and you'll be just as happy. And it may even seem more authentic if you do that. So my rating for this movie, I am giving it 4 out of 5 stars. The reason that I'm giving it 4 versus giving it 5 are some of the scenes that I honestly wasn't overly invested in went on a little bit long. Also, some of the black and white work, I just felt that there should have been a little bit less of it. But if it was, those are like nitpicky things, but still, nothing's perfect. And I'm not going to say that it was perfect. And my other thing I think is, unfortunately, I don't think this movie is for everyone. It is definitely a different twist on a Quentin Tarantino movie. And I do think it kind of, it's not that the movie leaves out younger people. I just don't think it's really a movie for younger people. And the only reason I don't think that it is unless you watch Me TV, which is a cable channel, it's METV here in the United States. A lot of the things, a lot of the movies that they reference, a lot of the television shows, a lot of the music was unfamiliar to me. So I can't, and I know, I mean, most people talk about how musical I am. And I was just like, wow. And those were not new songs. They were just songs I had never really heard before. And, you know, they reference actors who were old actors or older middle-aged actors back in the day when they were actually acting on the shows that are referenced or in the movies that were referenced. So that's why, you know, I believe that if you're age 60 and older, you are going to love this movie. You need to go see this movie. You know, some of the negative stereotype stuff there wasn't a lot of that at all. You know, there's a couple little sneak-ins there, but nothing like the typical Quentin Tarantino movie. And yeah, so that's why I gave it a 4 out of 5. Hopefully you do go see this movie. Watch Me TV for like 2 weeks before you see it, just to get brushed up on some of those old vintage television shows, and you'll enjoy it even more. Thank you for tuning in. Leave a comment down below. Are you going to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or are you not going to see it? Also, if you saw it, who was your favorite actor? What was your opinion on Michael Moe's role in this movie? Did you love it? Did you feel like Brad Pitt he took over and he was just the lead, not a co-lead, just the lead in this movie? And how did you think he sort of rounded out that denim? Thank you for tuning in. Have a great night. We appreciate you here at the Velvet Lounge Life. Please stay tuned for more videos.